All right, welcome to the Tribe Life Podcast, episode number 3, official number 3. And let's start off with what you're thinking about this week, Taz. What's been on your mind recently? Anything new?
Well, yes. The last couple of months, what's been on my mind is the joys of siblings and all the stuff that comes with that. Right now, Arrow is 21 months, so he's at that age where he wants to be involved in everything that Oaks is doing, and vice versa, actually. Oaks also wants to be involved in what Arrow's doing. So there's nothing like out of the ordinary with what we're going through, but we're trying different things, trying new things on how to deal with that. I think you'd maybe agree with me that nothing's really like working that well.
Right.
But we are trying to be consistent with what we're doing, and hopefully at some point that will start to click in their tiny little brain.
Hey, you don't need a huge brain for it to be functional. Ask the T-Rex.
Yeah. What about you? What do you got going on this week?
I think for me recently I've been thinking a lot about connecting with other men. And what I mean by that is other just like good guys in our like local community, and we set up a man's night that I wanted to have once a month to just get together with a bunch of good people and talk. But I think it might need to be more than that, because I think once a month is too long. But then it's like, how short of a gap do we have that it's not taking away from our family life? And my idea behind that is like, I just want to get a bunch of dudes together and drink some beers and chat about what's going on in our lives. I think it'll be good, and I think it's something that's lacking in our current landscape of being parents. But yeah, I've just been thinking about that, just where that would fit into our lives. And
I think people always talk about how females are so important that women have friends, and it's very important. But I think we definitely have not included how important it is that men have friends too.
Yeah.
And like you've seen, I mean, how great was the feedback from that last one you've had?
Yeah.
People were super stoked on it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think one thing that was surprising for me is I was trying to like limit it to only like good dudes, like people that I really like, because I don't want to bring in people who are going to add some sort of weird mojo to it. And then I kept thinking about people who really fit into that category, and there's a large demographic of them here, but we never all meet. It was like, okay, I thought it was going to be like 7 guys. And then I kept thinking, I was like, oh, no, 8 guys. Oh, no, 9, 10, 11. And now we've got 30 guys on this email list, like literally 31 dudes. And all of them, I think, are great guys.
So you said the people that would like don't add to the mojo, but what if this is what those people need? Exactly.
And I think that they'll be brought in eventually, but we need to solidify what this is first. Right. And I think what I mean by not people who don't fit the mojo, but I'm just saying that people who live a negative life.
Right.
And I do think it'd be valuable to try and help those people, but I want to help those people in one-on-one interactions and maybe eventually involve them to hopefully turn their mind. But I don't want people coming in who are just like, they aren't ready to be in this environment yet. I don't want anyone who's coming in who's going to like make fun of every other person.
Right.
And that's what I mean by that, is like, you need to have a safe space for everyone to do this, and it should be like bringing each other up rather than tearing each other down. And
right.
There are certain types of people who, when brought into that environment, they just start picking at people, and that's what I don't want to bring in.
Got it.
That's what I meant by bad. And I have friends who are like that. That's what they do. So I'm trying to see when and how they would fit in that situation. Anywho, this episode, we're going to be talking to Rory and Ange McKernan. Rory McKernan, you guys might know him from CrossFit, the CrossFit Games. He is the kind of head announcer guy on the Update show, and kind of just a TV personality, if you will.
You have no idea what he does.
I don't know what he does, what his actual job is, but he just like does a whole bunch of stuff for CrossFit. I think when we talked to him before, he also doesn't truly know what his title is. But at the same time, we'll chat with him and Angie, who is his wife, who does hair, and she also used to work for HQ. and also just an awesome girl. And they have some interesting stuff that they recently did.
So they just recently moved into an RV, and they are going to spend the next few years with them and their 2 kids living in an RV to save some money. And yeah, we speak more about that in the podcast.
And to be specific, they don't live in the RV and drive around in it. It's a stationary RV that they built a deck off of and live on one of our other friends' property. Right. So they're about to embark on quite an interesting experience. And looking forward to hearing everything that they have to say coming right up. Enjoy. Let's go into some more questions. Let's see. What's the current main challenge at your house? So like with your kids, like what's going on right now in their stage? By the way, what age are they?
Well, maybe we should like preface that with the whole like moving into an RV thing, because it might be related.
Definitely.
You want to preface it with that, or sure?
So we have Dakota Faith is our youngest, and she is 6, and Augustus Blue Gus is 7. So they're 16 months apart. So I got pregnant
like 2 years in a row, just kept going.
Yeah.
Super fun.
We're like, pregnancy is a good thing for you.
Fun.
Yeah, it feels good. Like,
and then
physically.
you had like health problems around that same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right when after I found out that I was pregnant with Dakota.
Yeah.
Is when he found out he was.
Ange's a good scheduler. So we were like, well, let's not do it like while you're pregnant necessarily. Like, let's have the kids first, and then we can do cancer if you want to do cancer. And I was like, that's probably a good time for cancer. And she was like, if you're going to do a second major surgery, do it after that. And I was like, that's a good idea too. So no, it was
So I had a toddler and a newborn.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the long story short for people who don't know is I had cancer, and then like a crazy lung thing that we can go into or not. But yeah, those bookended Coco's birth. So it was like, cancer in January, Coco born in July, surgery in October or something.
Jeez.
But there's all of that. But yeah, so they were close in age, which I think
it's good.
Yeah.
It worked for us.
Yeah.
I did not like being pregnant. I didn't like really any part of it.
Right. I remember.
There is not, I like my kids, but I did not like being pregnant. I felt like an alien. So I just I didn't want to get out of that mode because I was afraid I'd never go back and do it again, which now we're in that boat where he's like, let's have a baby. I'm like, no.
We'll get another dog.
We'll get another dog.
Oh, you kept it.
Yeah, so it's your testosterone factory and your baby making, but you can do it all with one. Which brings us back to the main challenge in our household.
Dogs.
No, what is it? Yeah, what is the challenge in your household?
So.
Well, you tell about the fifth wheel real quick.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us why you guys decided to move into a RV?
We lived in Scotts Valley in maybe 1,800 square feet in a neighborhood, just normal house.
Rental home.
And I think the median house price in Scotts Valley is like $890,000.
Appropriate.
Pocket change, right? And so when I stopped working for CrossFit, and went back to doing hair, we took a pay cut. And I think that we were just living.
Well, I think that, and this is my version there's definitely there's an obvious financial impetus, but I think also we had some friends who literally picked up and they're like, we're going to homeschool our kids and not just live in a trailer, like they're in a travel trailer, but they're traveling the United States while they're doing it. They went down to Mexico, they went through the southern United States, they ended up in Florida, and I could be just telling a story, but I remember we were talking about that one day, and I was like, man, that'd be awesome, but you'd never do it. She's like, dude, I'd do it. You'd never do it. And it's sort of escalated.
Just to be clear, I don't mean homeschool, because I would never homeschool my kids.
Move into a trailer.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not for us.
Understood. But no, the moving into the trailer part, and it sort of escalated, and we've always done things this way. We were never like, hey, we should have a second kid. We just did it.
Right.
We don't really we don't talk it through.
See what happens.
Yeah, but so within probably 2 weeks of having that conversation, we're looking at fifth wheels, and we're like, oh, this would be cool. Oh, hey, this is not expensive. And tiny homes.
We were looking at tiny homes and fifth wheels and all different kinds of tiny living situations. And a fifth wheel just worked better because I have a tall husband and the ceilings are big and we could have our own rooms, whereas the tiny houses kind of have more lofts that the kids would just be like staring at us while we sleep.
And I think when you're done with it too, like the tiny homes seem like I'm committed to this for life, you know? I don't know how much you can pass them on, but I could totally be wrong. So yeah, it was part adventure and part like in...
Save money.
We've got a 24-month plan to hopefully own our own land and maybe have the animal rescue one day.
So anyway, we live in 420 square feet now. And we have our own little bedroom, and the kids have their own bunk room, and then there's a living area in the middle. And really, there's not much going wrong as far as the living situation besides the dogs. We don't.
How long has it been?
It's been 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll come up. The main challenge, I think, to be fair, is that we like just finished moving. Anybody who's moved knows how bad it sucks. Like whether you're moving into a mansion or you're moving into a fifth wheel, like moving sucks. You know,
and we didn't just move; we sold everything that we owned.
Right.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, so it was like, okay, you know, going through that process of like everything's in piles. I took a video of it. One day I'll put it together, but that feeling, dude, where you're like, you're walking through, oh,
so
that's
overwhelmed.
valuable. Here's my sell pile, and here's my donate pile, and here's my whatever. And by the end, you're just like, yeah,
donate everything. Just donate everything.
Get out of my house.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the night before the walk-in or the walkthrough or whatever, to get out of the house, it's just like literally going through with a trash bag and being like, how do you accumulate so much crap? You know?
Man.
We had so much bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the dogs are your main challenge right now.
In the house, like.
Because they're big.
In the new situation, which is, we have a great setup.
I'd say dogs. And then what do you think about scheduling? Like, we do a lot. We were just talking about the other day, like, we got our kids both in at least 2 activities.
Yeah.
Because you live a little further out than you did before.
Scheduling, you just have to plan because we live 12 minutes from town. So it's a half-hour round trip.
Right.
If you forget a uniform or something.
Which sounds
Which
like
I never
done.
do, but...
Oh, it sounds like you've done.
Oh, for sure, dude.
Right.
I'll be like, I'm coaching soccer today. I leave all the balls at home, and I'm like, "Rah," you know.
We're playing
Right.
virtual soccer.
Exactly.
Today,
you know, they're like windy mountain roads, and I'm like, all right, kids, buckle up. Daddy's got to get to practice on time. No, I'm always safe with my children in the car.
So it sounds like the logistical stuff, but like you can figure that out, right? That might take a few months, but you'll get that figured out. Like, what about? I have a couple of questions, like with like family life. So the kids share a room, and it's bigger than I thought it was when I came to look. I literally thought it was going to be like
tiny.
bunks, right? You know, together, and then that like little hallway in between them.
Right.
But I have a couple of questions. One is, hey, how do you keep that room so clean?
Well,
like I know you're very good at doing that, but
yeah, that was one of my rules. If we were going to live tiny, like there's not going to be dishes in the sink. There's not, like, because that would drive me up a wall to be confined, and then have it be messy on top of that.
Right.
So everything has a place. If it didn't have a place, it didn't come in the trailer.
We actually ended up with more storage space. Like, we still have open storage space.
We do.
Yeah,
I didn't see that coming, you know.
So I just am really good at getting shit put away.
So if they use it, they have to put it away straight away? Or do you give them like a little like, oh, you can have it messy for like the rest of the day, and then you have to put it away? Or it's like you use it, you put it away.
Yeah, toys or books, I'm not such a stickler on, but like if they get undressed and their dirty clothes are on the floor, I'll say something right away because they won't initiate to, you know, and that's just part of being a parent.
Yeah.
But and having said that, I think one of the goals when we came out there was that we're putting a premium on outdoor space, right? Like, by virtue of the space, and there's some cool stuff on the property, like we spend more time outside. So 90% of the time they're outdoors, and at least right now, I'm not joking when it's like Gus has practice all the way till 7:00 on Tuesday and Thursday. They both got games on Sunday. On Wednesday, they've got football practice that goes all the way till 7:30. And so, like, we don't really get back to the house.
Right.
Like, we'll leave in the morning for an 8:15 drop off at school, and we're not back at the house until bedtime.
Right.
So it's less of an issue, you know. It's more.
And that's fall is because the kids play two sports. The rest of the year won't be like that.
Right.
You know, Gus will just play basketball in the winter. And,
Yeah.
and
So things
it'll
might change a little.
We'll just be home more.
Yeah.
And I'm not a stickler with the outside. So the kids can go
Right.
outside and hula hoop and ride bikes, and I don't care if they leave their bikes on. You know, it's just not. The inside is so small that.
What are you laughing at?
Wow.
This has always been the irony, and not irony, but this is funny because I'm a stickler for the outside.
Oh,
I'm
how
like,
funny.
"Oh," you know, I get all
Yeah.
OCD, and it was always
Yeah.
that way in our previous home.
Right.
With the garage.
The gym was in
Yeah,
the garage, you know.
that's the garage too.
And we'd be
what
like,
is
"Well,
that about men in the garage? What is that?
Or women and women inside.
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely
Like, so what?
mutual
There's
thing.
dishes in the sink, babe. I gotta get the barbells. There's chalk all over the place.
I am right there with you on that
right.
one.
It's interesting though because you don't live in the garage. You live in the inside space.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
you're okay to live in mess, but
And you're not like eating in the garage or going to the bathroom in the garage. You know.
I feel like I always found, and I'm sure it's just a strange character thing now that I'm just like obsessed with it. But in our old house, I would always find like that would be the first dumping spot, you know.
Yes.
So kids just be like, they'd
Right.
throw their shoes outside, and little by little it would turn into a pile. And so although you can make the inside feel, you know, a little bit less cluttery. To me, I was like discombobulated because I knew that we were just stuffing it all in the closet and shutting the doors, you know.
I think for me, it was like I've always wanted my own space. Like as a kid, I always lived in apartments and stuff. I never had my own space, but I'd have like a closet that was mine, and I'd have like turn it into my closet, and it'd be like everything is in its particular places and all that stuff, and everything else was shared space. So I didn't
Yeah.
really care how that was, and I like detached myself from that being how I wanted it to be.
Right.
So my space needs to be my space, and as an adult, my space is the garage. Like that's in my mind. I mean, she uses it more than I do, in all honesty, but I feel ownership over that space because I set down the mats, I set up how it looks, I painted the walls. Like that's my space.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like a certain level of I can control this, whereas in a house, like I don't feel like I can control it. Like when we're doing any sort of the washing the dishes or like the kids are gonna come up and put stuff there. It's like it's our space. So I've already let go of that mentally. So that's why I don't. That's why I love the garage, or that's why I take more care of the garage than I do.
yeah, I've definitely let go a lot more, like with the general space.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah,
even
'cause
this sitting here, like just like there's a railway track sitting on the ground that I really want to clean up. But
Railway track is like railroads, right?
Oh, thank
for
you.
The,
Yeah.
for the just
Translation.
translating
for the
you.
Americans,
Are you and this is credit to Angie on the last question that you asked, is I'm as bad as the kids, you know, like we'll go do, so we don't have a washer
Right.
dryer now, we'll go do laundry, she'll even fold it sometimes and just put it on the bed with the only request being like, hey, can you just put it away? And I'm like, get to it, babe, you know, like I'm so tired, I got other
course.
stuff to do. I'll literally sometimes take it and put it on the floor so that I can sleep in the bed.
Yeah.
And then leave it for
Oh,
the
And
yeah.
then I make the bed in the morning and put it back on
Oh,
the
yeah,
bed
me
so he
too.
sees it.
Yeah.
that's exactly. And we have this conversation often, and it's like Pat's biggest thing right now, actually, that he's working on is just trying to model the behavior so that
Yeah.
the boys don't end up being
Right, because
like
I can't hold them accountable if I don't do it.
Yep.
Right.
And I think that's what you said earlier. You know, it's like I definitely there's stuff that's not important to me that needs to be more important to me, and something like that is definitely it. But I think what she does a good job of doing is not laying into me for not doing it. It's not like you're a major asshole for screwing this up. It's more like, hey, it really, really bothers me, and then like that gets under my skin more than hey, put this fucking shit away. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't.
Exactly.
I'm just like whatever. Like like you want to get mad at me for clothes on a bed,
Right.
like versus hey, this really hurts my feelings when you do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh okay, I'm an asshole. And nowadays I'm the one saying that to myself.
I'm gonna start using that.
Well, so she doesn't even need to say it anymore. Like when I walk by it and look at it, I'm always like, fuck. Like
Wait, I have a question. What do you think when you walk by it and look at it?
I'm like, man, that's in my way. I'm tired.
yes, absolutely.
I'm like, how am I going to step over that later so that she doesn't know that I'm annoying, that I'm ignoring
Yes.
it purposefully?
Yes.
Come up with a devised plan. I spend more mental energy on.
that's his pile up there, just so you
Oh,
know.
boom.
Sitting on the
yeah.
railing.
Yeah, that's
She
his-
sets him over the railing because I hang my shirts.
Yeah, no, I'll spend more mental energy devising a plan for how I'm going to get around it than just like taking the time to actually do it.
Exactly. It'll literally take you 2 seconds. To
It,
just
it would, especially now. I own 3 drawers in the house.
Right.
I have a shorts drawer, socks and underwear drawer, and a t-shirt drawer. That is it.
What about pants?
There's a little like they're stuffed. Those are literally like in the space. And
So if someone was going to go do what you guys did, they were going to move into a smaller space, downsize everything. What would be some advice you have for them? So what is something that maybe you did that sucked that you would do differently, or something that you did that worked really well?
One thing I did that sucked was get rid of a whole bag of clothes that I meant to keep, and I donated them.
yeah.
Like good clothes. That sucked because I had to get new jeans and. That wasn't fun.
So
but
multicolored bags. Okay, gotcha. Black bag,
labeled bags.
Keeping black bags.
But even though that I was pissed off about that for like 10 minutes.
Right.
We held on to so many things because we thought we should, and none of it mattered.
Right.
None of it mattered. We don't miss one thing that we got rid of. Mm-hmm. Get rid of the shit. You don't need it. All it does is
totally
build up your space, so it's
just makes more work.
Yeah.
More work to put away more toys, put away more
everything.
stuff.
The kids have, stuffed animals was a big deal for Gus. He wanted to bring all his stuffies, and we just don't have room for it. So he picked out 5 stuffies, and he has them all on his bed, and he has 4 blankets on his bed, like all of his stuff that makes him cozy at night. And they all stay on his bed.
But he's not mentioned the other 20 stuff that he cried about. Like at the time, he's never mentioned them.
The kids don't have toys. They go out and play.
Yeah.
They go hunt lizards and play with sticks.
Bumper made. Well, that was mine. Bumper was part of the deal. This is the animal.
Bumper was not one of the 5.
That's the stuffed animal that I've had. Yeah, exactly. Bumper's a freebie. Which 5 additional to Bumper? I just called him Boner. That was awkward.
That's good.
Yeah, even
Why
when
does
we
he
travel,
smell so weird?
when we travel in the van, like we showed you that little. There's like a little section underneath the front seat. That's the toy and the helmet and any kids associated stuff that we put in there. And if it doesn't fit in there, we can't take it. And every trip we've been on, I think Oaks pulls out maybe one time, like his little thing of Legos or cars. And the rest of the time, he doesn't even go in there. He's just playing.
Yeah. So in a word, would you say commit? Just do
get
it.
Rid of more.
We even have a small. I'm glad that we have as small of a storage space as we have.
Yeah. So in our storage space is our Christmas ornaments and our camping gear and our snowboard gear.
Right.
And that's it.
So we got small. It's like an 8x8.
Yeah.
And it's all the way to the top. Don't get me wrong, but it's small. Yeah. So commit would be the good.
Holiday decorations take up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're into that.
I like to decorate for holidays. But it doesn't matter. Stuff doesn't matter.
I would say
was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I agree. If I was going to give somebody advice, I think that we both underestimated the cost of moving and got so excited about how much money we would be saving that we ended up spending more money than I thought we would, which really all it does is push back our 24-month plan. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So that would be one thing. Is just be be super realistic with yourself, and no matter what, we're saving a tremendous amount of money. And I think that.
And having experience and adventures, which probably at the end of it's going to be your biggest takeaway from it.
Absolutely. And I think the kids will look back on this. I was worried about them sharing a room because they'd never shared a room. Yeah. And now they haven't once bitched or moaned about it. Yeah. They still fight because they're brother and sister, but...
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. What with the kids, what's been their, apart from the stuffies, what's been their hardest transition?
I don't know if we know.
Or is it still too early maybe to...
Well, it's too early, but...
It's definitely been a transition.
Yeah.
And me and my mother-in-law were talking about this, but I don't know what, they can't vocalize it. And because we talk about it open, what do you miss about the old house? And, it's an open conversation with us. And they can't really, I just miss it.
Right.
They can't really vocalize. So we know that they... miss it, but they also love the new place, and I think that's pretty normal for their age,
Right.
Having said that, though, Gus has had some stuff lately that we've never seen before, behaviors where a couple of parents have been like, hey, he did something that wasn't cool with my kid, or teachers have been like, hey, he's really talkative in class, and before it was always he loves to follow rules. Gus is I see the same thing in me. He's kind of a people pleaser, he likes to do the right thing. So there's no direct association, and any psychology is that way. But
It's been
It-
the timing has been.
It laid directly over like us moving and doing some traveling and stuff. So
What do you do when you get that feedback? Hey, your kid did X, Y, and Z. Like, what is your approach? Like, hey,
It's
your
usually
kid.
always me that gets the feedback from other moms.
Okay,
I just say, thank you so much for telling me. I'll talk to him about it.
right.
I mean, there's
So how does that talk go then with Gus?
so usually I'll try to, and Rory and I have been conscious of this, but I try to not blame Gus right away and ask for, hey, like, what's your side of the story? Tell me what happened there. And then if it matches and he was like, yeah, I was a dick to my friend, then okay, well, you need to say you're sorry and own up to it and, do the right thing. And if that happens again, then you're going to have a consequence. Or if it's a totally different story, then I'm like, okay,
Something.
that's a little more hard to navigate,
yeah, it's different for me to get feedback from parents and from teachers. So when the teacher tells me, hey, he's talking during class, he's being disruptive. If it's coming from the teacher, I'm like immediately. If it's something like kids were using their hands or anything like that, that's a different story. But if the teacher's like, hey, he's being disruptive, I'll just take her at her word and I assume that it's correct and we'll talk about it like that.
Right.
Be like, hey, dude, what's going on? How can we fix it? And he doesn't have major behavioral problems, so he knows. And he's like, oh, I'll do my best. And he'll write a letter to the teacher and he changed that one like now.
Right.
When it comes from parents, for me, lately, I've really done my best to do a 180 on this because I think of my own person-pleasing nature. I would always assume that they were right and he was wrong.
Right.
And I'm really...
And because they're an adult and he's a kid.
Because they're an adult and he's a kid. And I'm a little bit upset about that because intentionally I've got high exposure to a lot of these kids because I coach their football teams and I coach their soccer teams and get to spend a lot of time around them in that way. So I know the dynamics of kids. And a lot of days, at least the 7-year-old boys and Coco, like 6-year-old girls, they'll throw around the word mean like it's like they're saying hello all the time. And so when I hear from...
And Gus and Coco do it to each other, too.
Oh, they do it to each other, too, yeah.
Our kids do it, too.
So I'll do my best to be an advocate first for my kid and make sure that I'm getting the real story, So I'll basically triangulate. Like, what does this kid say? What does our kid say? And what is the parent saying? And again, not because I distrust them and not because I think that they have some, like, conspiracy against my child, but because, like, that's my job, is to be in his corner. It's just like when you're friends, right? I got your back first, and right, wrong, or indifferent, like I'm always going to have your back, but then I try and figure out what the real situation is before figuring out our course of action with Gus. Is that fair to say? Because, instead of initially being like,
They're right, yeah.
Yeah, Gus, what the heck, man? Like, sit down, like, we got to fix this or whatever. Knowing that the game of telephone, by the time, and our kids to us is the same thing, but by the time a kid feeds back to an adult what they perceive to have happened, it might have been that one was using money incorrectly in a Monopoly game and somebody said this is stupid. It may be that they were all pushing each other, but the one who fell down says that everyone else is mean and was picking on him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just like to try and get like a
full picture.
A full
Do you
picture.
find that the story just like continues to come out like days and weeks later? Like we find that with Oaks, like if he comes home, he's like, oh, something happened today. And then and in that moment, we're kind of asking for all the details, and he'll either say, "Oh, I don't really remember all of it," and then even just this morning, from a situation that happened 5 days ago, he started talking about it again, and he like remembered. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did remember it. Something else that happened, I was like, "Oh, well, I thought only there was 2 people involved. Oh no, there were like 5 people there."
Yeah, that happens all the time.
So it's like. It's in the moment when you're like talking to them, it's really hard to get the full story anyway.
Yeah, and they think that they're going to get in trouble, or they think that so they're.
I like the default to defense. Sorry that sorry to interrupt you, but it's like I think that seems pretty clutch because like
there's a good
if you
mentality.
default to defense and then work it through and you figure out that they're in the wrong, either way they're getting to the point of they're learning something there, but they know that you always have their back. So like. If you can always default to defense, then they learn to trust you. Yeah. Because you're always going to protect them first and always going to trust them first. I think that's like,
I got to give credit to my mom, man. At one point, I resonates with me. I can't remember the exact situation, but it was long ago, maybe even when Gus was 16 months old. And she said, your first job is to be an advocate for your child. And I was like, remember that quote all the time, and so for that reason, so that they know, and then it'd be cool for you to talk about like what you learned kind of from Paula about making it a friendly environment, so that because her kids tell her everything.
My sister Paula's kids just talk to her. I mean, they still, and they're 2 of them are grown, and she just never freaked out. Right. She's just like,
she might freak out beneath the skin, or
on the inside. She's like, I would be like sweating bullets, but she goes, just never let them see you freak out, because if you freak out, they're gonna shut down and stop talking, and they're gonna remember it, especially if you do it a couple times.
And right now it's all innocent stuff. It's like so and so hit me on the playground, or so and so pushed me down, but eventually it's gonna be like, hey man, like all my friends are smoking weed. Like, what do you think I should do? Or hey, like all the kids at this party were drinking the other night. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with the situation, but I want them to come to me with that stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah,
it's huge. It's clutch.
Sometimes it's really hard to take the emotion out of it.
Mm-hmm. It is hard.
That's what you have to do.
Hard. But it's the training time now.
Right.
Like this is
this
is the mildest shit we're going to approach.
Totally.
Like,
Paula always tells me, like and you guys know my sister and Jordan, but when our kids were little and her kids were in high school, going through high school stuff, I would call her with, my kid has a diaper rash or something. She's like, hey, at least you fucking know where your kids are sleeping, okay? They're in bed safe. It's 11 o'clock p.m. and I don't know where my kids are or whatever. Yeah. And so I remember that, and
it'll ramp up.
But it's like it's your reality now, though. Like
totally.
For sure. Telling me that
he
called someone a poopy face, for him that's like the meanest thing he can say.
Yeah.
Right.
And so to me it's like, oh, dude.
Cut deep, bro.
God, did you cut him?
Oh my god. I was like, what did he say back to you?
Oh my god.
You're right that and it is all miniature now, but I think that also, Pat, what you said about habits the other day, it's also dynamics between people. We're laying that foundation, even since the kids were probably 2 years old. Somewhere down in their brain, they know, I did this, daddy reacted this way. I did this, daddy reacted this way. I did this, daddy reacted this way. And it's in their brain. So even as their problems get bigger, like still, it matters now what happens,
Absolutely. Shit, my kid already does one of my least favorite things, which is like lose his temper really quick.
Yeah.
But he can let go of that. But like he already does it, where something will really bother him, and he goes straight to just really angry. There's no like ramp up.
Yeah.
But he's mellow most of the time. And then I'm like, oh, that is a trait I have. Like that's a thing where I'll be like, dun dun dun, bah! Like there's no like, I'm slowly getting more angry, and
right.
So and I built that into my 5-year-old. It's like, fuck.
It's the worst when I can see stuff in Dakota and in Gus too. Gus is more like Ro, I think, but I can see stuff in her, and I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
I don't have any tattoos, but the one tattoo that I always thought about getting, like, as soon as I had kids was, have you guys seen Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon?
Yeah.
Where he has to fight, he has to literally fight his own demons. Like, that's kind of a theme that keeps coming back. Like, he's always protecting his kids from these demons that are, like, marching towards, and he's got to, like, karate fight them like Bruce Lee. And eventually, like, I won't spoil it for you. Okay. But he's fighting his own demons so that they can't get to his son.
Right.
And it's symbolic, obviously, of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like I need to sort my own shit out.
I know.
Before I can raise an individual to be like a well-adjusted human being.
Totally.
What was the tattoo though?
It would be like Bruce Lee fighting the
gotcha.
demons.
I thought there was like a word, like the Nike symbol or something.
No, if it was a word, it would be like.
Yeah, there we go. Good. Yeah. And you just get it right across your knuckles.
and up the arm. Go all the way around like your owl.
Yes, exactly.
So, just circling back to the kids. So, actually, no, you answered it. It's fine.
Let's go in. Like, I kind of want to follow up on the health stuff. So, I want to know from your perspective, like, I want to know from both your perspectives. Like, as a father, when you got a scare like cancer or the lung thing, like, what's your thought process? Like, what do you then go through? Like, what's something that made it so you didn't just go, like, just completely lose it? Because I don't know. Like, what happens mentally?
Well, let's be real. He did lose it a couple times.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh,
right?
for sure. I think it's an interesting question, especially with this much retrospect. The cancer, I don't want to say it was easier, but it was a diagnosis on a Thursday and a surgery on Monday, and there just wasn't time to think about it. You know what I mean? And like sometimes that's better. It's like rip the Band-Aid.
Right.
So literally my testicle was removed, and it was a outpatient surgery. Like, so it wasn't that big of a deal, and I didn't lose it until 3 or 4 days later when they do the follow-up scans, and they said you're cancer-free. And that was at the point where like I kept my shit together all the way back to the home that you guys know now is Justin and Lindsay's home. And I'll never forget, like I went up onto our bed in that upstairs room, and I probably bawled like I've never bawled in my life.
Yeah.
And after, I mean, I always thought, and I even said this, I think, I often waited for like that Kleenex commercial to come on and to just like, you know, completely lose it. But there wasn't a massive emotional connection to it where it all just came out, except for that one thing that I remember. You might remember it differently.
And that was, I think, because you were holding it all together, right? And then you can hold it in, and then probably for me, because I was pregnant at the time, and Gus was, you know, I don't know, 10 months old, and then he just couldn't hold it in anymore, right? Like you're just like, wow.
Yeah, and to be honest, on top of that, like I don't know if I shared this with you guys, but it was only this January was my like graduation from cancer.
Right.
I mean, I've been doing scans and blood work and all that kind of stuff, so it was never like over, you know.
Right.
And so now there's finality to it, and hopefully it'll be something else. But the lung surgery, and like to put it in perspective, was after cancer, they said, hey, good news, bad news. Good news is you're cancer free. Bad news is you got this lung thing. And like I heard about it once in med school, but it's crazy. So you got to go to a lung specialist. And over the process, we found out that I've had this thing since birth. Like I was born with it. Somehow they missed it. And it was non-functioning lung tissue in my right lung. But it had a blood supply from my descending aorta.
Which none of us have.
Yeah,
his body made this blood supply to this.
Yeah, and I was like, so well, you know, okay, fine. Like, what's the deal? And they were like, with the lung thing, eventually you'll get like chronic infections and pneumonias and things like that. And I was like, okay, fine. And I was like, with the blood supply, what's the deal? And he was like, well, it could burst. And I was like, well, what happens then? And he goes, 4 heartbeats. So I'd be the dude like playing basketball and just
then
go.
you would just have a heart attack.
Dead. You know, like because your aorta is like you open up your aorta and like see ya.
Yeah.
You know, 4 heartbeats and you're dead. So we chose to get surgery, and that one was hard for me because there was
that was like Stanford ICU days, almost a week in the hospital.
Yeah. And you guys have seen the scar, like it was.
I mean, it was open heart and lung surgery.
Right.
So he has a scar all right here.
And like removed my lat, moved it up.
Like that's
cracked
this is the type of shit
the ribs open.
I think modern medicine is very amazing for.
Like, it's crazy.
It's just amazing the type of thing that they can do. Other stuff we don't really need to get into. What was your like? So this like death sentences, 2 of them, happened to your husband. Like, is it immediately going to like, okay, who in my inner circle can I marry? And like what's I'm serious. Like, what's the immediate thought process that happens for you?
I mean, I just think in that moment, I think it was just survival mode. Like,
because Gus was 9 months old?
Yeah.
Because when you're in it, you're just living day to day. You're not thinking about like, well, what if this happened? Because it's actually
I didn't even let myself really go there. And the cancer stuff happened so quick. Literally, he called me and said, I just got out of the doctor and they're sending me to Dominican because they said I have cancer. He just calls me. And I'm pregnant with Gus, 8 months old running around, or 9 months old running
around. There's a longer story though too. Like I'd been misdiagnosed by this guy. He was like, it's nothing. But when I went to, you guys know Mark Rosen.
Yeah.
So when I went to Mark Rosen, he basically almost didn't put a glove on. He was like, okay, we'll do this, but like I know you have cancer. He was like, cancer.
He was like. So then he went to Dominican to get it. He called me on the way. Got an ultrasound, and so I'm just sitting there. I mean, I immediately called Paula, my sister, and I was like, Rory has cancer. What the fuck? I can't remember if I was crying. I don't even remember. It was like.
So I
it was survival for me.
We were very one foot in front of the other, baby in tow. But for me, the lung surgery we had, we literally put it off until after the 2010 CrossFit Games because it was really important. And so we
more important than your life.
We scheduled it, right? And I was like, actually, we scheduled it for after those ESPN shows because that was the first time we were doing ESPN shows. And so we had time to think about it. So like I literally made the tape in the garage where I was like, okay, kids, your daddy loves you, and here's what I want you to know growing. Yeah, totally.
Oh, fuck.
So yeah, I think that's kind of what like I'm interested like because
Interested in it. I never want to think about it.
No, because I like occasionally I'll think you think about stuff like that. Okay, you're like
pops into my head for maybe 12 seconds.
Yeah, but in those 12 seconds, like it's a pretty. There's lots going on in those 12 seconds.
Sure.
Yes.
You're like, what would happen? And then you just stop thinking about it because it's just terrifying.
Yeah.
So you actually like lived through that. Like, what was going through your head? Like, if I die, what? Like, and I'm leaving Ange here with these 2 kids.
Totally.
Like,
all the associated guilt and like just negativity of that. It's a blessing in my life. Like I just like have a hard time not looking on the bright side. You know.
Right.
Like I even for that thing, like I knew better than to not like ask him for drugs as soon as I got there, you know? Like I'm not like cool as a cucumber. I didn't meditate my way into like a major surgery. But
yeah, he showed up and he's like, I have a lot of anxiety. Give me some.
Whatever you got.
I'll take anything.
I might be dying. Make it good.
Do you think did you see any change in him after it all happened?
And the hard part, just to give the story, maybe to round it out, I got to lay in the hospital for 10 days on opium. So that was probably one of the hardest times, right? 'Cause she's driving back and forth to Stanford. It was raining and shitty over the 17 with a baby in tow and a baby in her belly. Or no, 2 babies now.
2 babies by this surgery.
So that was probably the hardest
Coco
time.
was, I think, 3 months old, something like that. And Barb came out and looked after Gus. That's Rory's mom. And so I was still nursing and everything.
Right.
So I would take,
Yeah.
the baby with me over the hill, and it sucked. I had to pull over on the 17 a couple times just to like breathe.
Yeah.
Especially right after his surgery, because it was you're just so anxious all day.
Mm-hmm.
I almost thought about not nursing. I was like, this can't be good for the baby.
Right.
Because I'm like,
This is pure cortisol.
Totally.
Squeeze this out.
Totally. But I just had these 2 babies. Like I did not have there's no option
There's no
to
other
like
option.
freak out or
Totally.
you just do it.
So someone gets in this situation. And
Don't freak out.
What's
Suck
something
it
they
up.
can do
Stay calm.
to not freak out?
We
Hug your babies.
yeah.
Right. Invest your emotions into.
We're religious as well, you
Right.
know. So we leaned on church a lot, you know. Coco's middle name is Faith, because we felt like that was like a major component of getting us through
all that.
was just like, hey, this is gonna be okay in some way, shape, or form. You know, and so that was huge for us. And community, like we said, like, you know, there's no family here, but there's you guys. There's families that we feel like our family,
Right.
and that we've done life with for a lot of years. So we had a lot of support in that. But yeah, if somebody's going through it, it's like, I think it's like anything else. There's factors you can control and there's factors you can't control.
Right.
You can get worked up over theoretical future scenarios or outcomes, or you can just say, okay, we got this moment we're gonna, you know, that we can affect change on, and try and keep yourself as rooted as possible in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's weird to think about, right? I mean,
I don't even know why I'm emotional about it.
Well, maybe you probably don't talk about it like that often.
I mean,
do
we
you?
have,
Yeah.
on and off. It's not something that we don't talk
Right,
about
right.
on purpose, but I don't know.
But you don't go deeper often, you know? Like I often, like, I've told the story enough because I've got a scar, you know, that, you know, you kind of like, you can elevator pitch it almost, you know, and be like, oh, here's X, Y, and Z that happened. So I think probably, you know, to connect with it emotionally and actually think about it is difficult.
Yeah.
I'm stoked that you guys made it through and like your relationship's as strong as it is. Like that could be something that could just destroy a relationship. You know, like I would resent the fuck out of you personally if you went and got fucked up twice while I was pregnant. I'd be like, what the hell is your issue,
Remember when like my hip was diagnosed? Do you remember?
No.
The first question Pat so I got diagnosed with like this hip and it was really bad. I mean, it wasn't cancer,
it was
but it was really bad.
Yes,
And arthritis. And he was
arthritis,
like,
a whole
you're never
other-
going to be able to squat again.
Yeah.
And Pat goes, is she going to be able to play games with me?
What about sex? Is this,
No, literal game. So a huge
Like
component of
sport
our
games.
relationship.
Right, I get it.
But back
is
then, I
playing
mean, that
games.
was a long time ago. That was
It's
we
true.
didn't have kids.
No. But
Yeah.
you
That was the foundation.
But when you're in a relationship with somebody, like there's expectations as to their part of the relationship,
Yeah.
and when something is that altering to where it's like they're all of a sudden not going to have that component, like you have to live with, or you have to figure that out in your head of what's going to happen, right? And I'm
Totally.
sure you went through that like process of like, okay, he's got to be castrated. What do we do? You know, like no more penis forever. Like,
Right.
but like that's not something you bought into. So it's like that thought. I mean, it wasn't to that extreme, but it was like.
Right.
It was like that's my identity with her, and to have someone just tell me that that's changing, I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean that that's changing? What do you mean you're never gonna get to squat again or play?
I
the
mean,
games?
I know about the things we said at the wedding, but like
Yeah.
what I meant was like,
No, but I think what that does though
This
is
is way
it
before that.
sickness and health as long as you can play games.
it just forces growth in a way that you normally wouldn't have to.
Totally.
You know, so
Yeah.
many
Yes.
people don't have to go through that, and then the like little things will annoy them really, really heavily.
Dude.
But I think having something that large in your life, you can then be like, okay, we can work through other stuff. Like I'm
Oh,
sure you guys
absolutely.
right now are
I'm
like,
sure everything
if
is
it
like-
goes down, you're gonna
yeah.
be like, this is nothing compared to what we did before.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, yeah, like people do get, and I'll be straight up, like it was scary for us and it was really real for us, but like I got the best form of cancer you could ever get, literally. You know what I mean? So people do go through. I mean, dude,
We didn't have to go through chemo.
We have to go
Right.
through chemo, but what if your spouse got paralyzed?
Yeah.
What if, and of course there's death, but like, you know, there's some outcomes that could be even worse than death, and you know,
It could
so-
be worse.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and we told ourselves that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But-
this could be so much worse.
Right.
I have a really pragmatic question because I'm embarrassed to say that we have not done this. When you do think about it, have you guys ever set up like a will or?
We
stuff?
haven't.
Yeah.
Pat's mum told us because we're going on this 5-month trip. She
Yeah.
was like, you need to do a will before you.
You
leave."
do. We need to do that. It's
You know?
amazing to me that we haven't. We've
I
done.
know.
Can you do a video will?
I think you
I
could,
think
but I think
so.
you'd still screw over the people that you left behind. You know what I mean? Like, because then lawyers would have to be like, I don't know if
right.
this counts and does it not?
Right.
Was he under duress? Whatever. Like, if it's in paper, black and white, and you signed
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
there's no question. Like, this
I know.
goes to
I don't know
Oaks,
why
this
we
goes
don't.
to
Is it
Arrow,
because we're
like-
just so scared of like admitting that we potentially could die?
right?
I think
Well,
that's
what-
what it
I'm not
is.
scared of that. I don't know. I think ours is pure lazy.
Right.
It is. It's one of those
Yeah.
things you put
Yeah.
on a list, and you're like, there's no. You don't think it's gonna happen, right?
Right,
there's
but you
no,
you can literally put it on a piece of paper, right? I
you
mean,
could. And
Well,
we
we've done that.
we've done
oh,
that,
okay.
but I think it's
we
better.
haven't even done that.
Like
think
who our kids will go to if we both travel together.
Right, and then that's also what your mum was like. You need to write that too,
Mm-hmm.
like, because yeah, who would they go to?
highest bidder.
Yeah, fair
Who
enough.
who are yours going to go to? For?
Paul and Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job.
Yeah. I think we even looked at my brother one time. We were like, what do you think? And he'd be like, mm-mm.
Then it's definitely not the.
No, man, I'll go. No, I'm kidding. He'd be great.
Yeah, I don't know. Who
But yeah, like the easiest of the easy stuff. We need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we literally knocked on death's door, and then we're like, okay, cool, we'll put that off. You know,
We're
Let's
good
get
for
to
a while, probably.
yeah, we're,
Yeah.
Well, what's the thing that lowers it, or increases your ability to do it? It's like community, right? So what if we all got together and we started this like thing? It was like, all right, we're all gonna go set up a will right now.
Yes.
Everyone's gonna do it. We get like 10, 15 people. We're setting it on this day, and we all go in together and do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm in.
do
Like,
we
we'll
probably
set
get
it
a
up.
decreased price?
Yeah, like,
Just get a lawyer that you pay by the hour and be like, listen, bro,
listen, you're gonna bang out a bunch of these in a row.
I'm gonna get your price. We all agree
I
on
want
this.
your will stamp on here. So you get to the end of your kids both turn 18 and graduate and leave. What do you deem as like we succeeded? Success. Like what would you ideally have them walk away with? Like what is the thing? That they're not dead?
No,
They're
I
not-
would say happiness.
I'm glad you said that because I was gonna go with something else. But yeah, happiness. Happiness that comes from a solid grounding, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like, I have habits where, like, you know, my happiness has to come from extraneous, like, you know, outside sources or something. It'd be cool to root in them. What
Make
makes
your
them
own.
happy
That
and
they're
how they,
in charge of that.
and how they
They're in
satisfy
charge
that.
of it, right?
Okay, so what's your role in that now?
It's
Finding yourself.
yeah, totally, and making sure that they focus on what you deem to be the right things. Look, no matter what we decide, I think we're still our kids at some point are gonna be like, oh, you know, they really messed that up. But I think to that end, I don't know, how do you teach people to be happy, man?
You just teach them to work through shit and don't stress out over.
Yeah, and I think find and pursue things you love. I think teaching them not to follow what structure society says that you have to do. You know what I mean? I won't. And I wasn't pressured to do this, but I won't. I don't think that my kids are going to have to follow the immediately after high school you have to go to college and you have to have a 4-year degree that's going to lead to this. Like that just wasn't the road that I took. I did go to the 4-year college, but it has nothing to do with what I do now. Sort of kind of follow things and nurture that. Maybe it's along the same lines.
And be behind them. Like, if they're interested in something, or if something really makes them happy, just let them do it. Even if it's not what you want for them, you know? Like, you have to let that shit go.
Right.
There's a great book called The Book of Joy. Have you read it? Seen it? It's the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu sat down in a room and talked about happiness for like 3 weeks. And this guy interviewed them both and just got their opinions on it to like kind of high holy leaders.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful book, them just speaking about happiness and what it takes to be happy. And they've kind of both continually come back to the idea of living a life of service to others. So like making other people around you's lives better is how they say like true happiness is achieved.
And they've both had like extreme hardship too.
And they have both gone through extreme hardship.
Right.
Like
that like, and they feel like because they went through that hardship that they're like out through the other side and they can
and they probably had people that served them during that hardship.
So that if you want to think about something like that, it was just something that I think about. I go back to because I'm like,
definitely.
How do I? And I think you guys probably do it inherently. Is like you know what are the little things you could do that you just do it for other people and not for an outcome. And maybe initially it's so like okay, so this is how I'm going to be happy, and you go out and do that, but then build that into your personality. And then Simon Sinek has the whole stuff where it's like every time you do something for someone else, like a release of oxytocin happens. So it's like we're genetically primed to try to do things for other people without a response. You know, like our bodies want us to do this. We should probably keep doing this, you know, and it'll cause these patterns to be built up. So that's something I try to do now. Like even today we were at the Whole Foods, and I was like looking around for somebody whose cart I could take off them that's back there, like looking for a mom or something who's got like 2 kids who just brought her cart over. It's like, whose cart can I grab to take it back to the thing? Because I know if that was someone coming and grabbing my cart, hey, can I take that for you? I'd be like, yes, that guy's awesome, you know, like that spawns more. So that's kind of my
service is important, and I think that's important to both of us, but our actions don't speak as loud as they should, you know, and we can blame it on
we go through waves for sure.
But it's life goals for me too. You know, is to have like some sort of a doesn't have to be like a philanthropic organization that I found, but like something to do with like with that on a consistent basis where it's always, you know, part of our deal.
And we were talking about it the other day too. Remember about like being like there's people out there that are just like genuinely selfless, and I don't feel like I'm one of them. Like I feel like I try as hard as I can to help the people in my immediate circle, and then we're saying like also most of the time it's also when it suits me. You know, it's not
like when it fits into the
if
schedule.
It doesn't fit into the schedule. Like I mean, of course, sometimes you put yourself out when you have to. If a friend is sick and you've offered to take them soup, you take them soup, and regardless. But most of the time, if it's like, hey, can you do this thing? You're like. You'll check your calendar, like there's no like immediately of course yes and I think that's for me that's what I'm trying to change is being more like yes of course I can do it, and then rearranging stuff on the back end, and you know it doesn't matter that you change that
totally.
But the problem is, and this is something that I was talking to a guy actually last night about, is like there are people in this world who are leeches, and there are people in this world who will find people like that are truly selfless and bleed them dry, and they talk about in the whole business thing, it's like there's givers, takers, and matchers. Most people are matchers, so they're looking to match whatever happens. Takers take regardless and have no intention of ever matching what you're doing. And givers truly give with no intention of receiving. And givers are either at the top of companies or the very bottom of companies. And the difference between the top and the bottom are these givers learn how to say no and learn how to and find people who just are sucks of energy and are not worthwhile.
What I said to you the other day, you need to start saying no.
Right. But finding the appropriate times. I mean, there's such a level of nuance to that. It's like when's the time to say no and when's the time to say
when
yes.
When it's impacting your family. You know, that was my reasoning for it. I was like, okay, I don't want to tell Pat to say no to helping people out, because essentially that's what we're trying to do here, is trying to help people out because we're in such a fortunate position. But if it's starting to impact our family life or starting to stress the wife out who needs to make everyone happy, and then for me that was like time to start saying
you can't say yes to everything.
Right.
I just told Rory that last night.
So what's funny is like I'm so good at saying yes in certain situations that like I really enjoy like going on a podcast or calling someone up on the phone and chatting with them about their affiliate for an hour. Like that kind of stuff is easy for me to say yes to. But the reason I use that Whole Foods analogy is like the last thing I want to do is walk back over to that store or like once I've got my cart there,
and
pull my cart back and put it back. Like I want to just leave it in the parking lot, that takes so much more mental effort than agreeing to an hour-long phone call with this guy that's probably going to last for 2 hours.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, it's now, what are the things that are hard for me to do? Can I say yes in those situations versus like saying a yes to the time suck?
Yeah,
so
totally.
I guess that's
and I think for me, it's probably the similar thing. Like I'll be hugely giving up my time, but it's usually in this small little ecosystem in which I live,
Right.
And usually that small little ecosystem, we're making huge differences in a lot of people's lives, and I acknowledge that, but it's not the same as like, I'd like my kids to see also outside of that world and be like, hey, you know what, we can go serve people dinner on major holidays or something like, go to people who are homeless or, like there's major, social or environmental things that you could show your kids to, and I'm not as good at that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Something to work on.
Yeah.
Always, man.
Yeah.
Always something.
On the advice to kids though, at 18, this is the first piece of parenting advice I was ever given. It was from Todd Woodman, and I never forgot it. And it was the goal for him, he said, was to make good decision makers and not good rule followers.
Right.
And I love it because you're not going to be there the first time your kid, I brought up like, drugs and alcohol. You're not going to be the first time they decide to have sex. You're not going to be there the first time they decide to drink and drive or not. You're just not going to be there for those major decisions. So the best you can do to arm them by the time they leave your home, or obviously those things would probably come up before they left your home, the better.
Yeah,
so that's one of the goals too, is like, how do you arm them with the ability to be like, I'm not going to not do this because dad and mom are going to get mad. I'm going to not do this because it's a
not good.
stupid
Bad
idea.
idea.
Stupid idea.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's
Or
good.
it could hurt someone. Or
Right. And then it goes right back to, what you're saying Paula is good at, not, just being there to listen and being very open to accepting whatever they've done or...
There's probably plenty of
How they
ways
are.
to approach that. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the fun, right? It's like we're figuring out what are the approaches. But it's just like the same thing as we talk about in the CrossFit stuff. It's like systematic self-observation is so important. Like try something. How did that work? Shit, that blew it. Like I can see the negative response to that happening over again. But that conscious effort to want them to get to that place of like, let's figure this out. Let's make good decisions. Like let's create decision makers versus rule followers or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. I wanted to bring people on here who don't necessarily think exactly like Taz and I do. And I think there's definitely aspects of your guys' life and personality that are different than us. I wanted to ask specifically, and I'm not going to fight you on it in any way, but...
That's a lie.
Like how he,
That's a dirty lie.
No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to fight you. So you guys chose to circumcise your child.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious what the decision was there. So like...
We didn't.
Because we didn't, obviously. I mean, we've got two little Euro boys running around. But
Euro BBs.
Euro PPs. What was the decision there? Was there a conversation about it? Or was it just
for sure, yeah.
It was a cultural norm thing. It wasn't. I didn't buy any of the hygiene stuff. You guys use Dr. Black? Did we ever talk about that?
Yeah.
I think he's good about giving both sides of the argument.
Totally.
Yes.
And
Yes, he
he's
was.
like, here's the arguments for, which is hygiene and whatever. He's like, but here's the counter statistic to that. And so at the end of the day,
he's really good at that.
And so he was like, so at the end of the day, it's basically like, do you want him to look like dad or not? And we were like, yeah.
It wasn't a big decision for us.
Right.
Like we didn't put a lot of. Maybe we should have. It was our first kid. And
yes, I'll go a step further to say like, so Angie has a niece who's 21, 22, a nephew who's 19, and a niece who's 12. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of experience of seeing children. My brother's not married yet, and he still doesn't have any kids. Like Gus was the first baby that I actually like held,
and changed the diaper.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff was decided on the fly. And I'll tell you that I wouldn't go back and change it if I had the option to now. But at the time, it was, I think, well, yeah, that's what you do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It was
Like,
more. It was
It's
more
more
like
just
that.
like that.
being in the room when they did it, I was like, wait.
So that's
Hey, screaming.
my only follow up is like if I'm saying like you have the chance, you don't have the chance to go back on that, but you have another kid, and like if we're looking at you're permanently changing an aspect of this child's body that they can do later if they choose to, but if you do it now, they can no longer, like you're making this decision before them. Like, would you ever, if you had another child, reconsider?
I mean, I think you could say that about a lot of things. Vaccine. You could say it just about a lot of things that you do to your kids because you just
Same with
feel.
how you.
I mean, it was a gut decision.
Same with how you raise them.
Exactly.
You can't go back and change that.
No, and so I think we'd probably just do the same thing.
Well, you can't go back and change that, but you can then
You can learn from it.
No.
Oh,
The
I
point
see
about
what you're saying.
circumcision
You
is like,
can.
say he's 18, he wants to get circumcised. He can.
Right.
Like, but there's so that there is the option to do it much later, and that's the only thing I was saying is like because it's an irrevocable decision. There aren't many irrevocable decisions that can be modified down the road. That's why I play devil's advocate here, just to see that.
Yeah.
So your question was, would you reconsider it?
If you had another child.
I'm sure that we talk about it, but I don't think so. And I think it's interesting that you feel so strongly about it. There's some things that like I don't. It doesn't really like. I don't know. I never.
Well, it's because
I
he's
never,
not circumcised.
I understand.
Right.
Yeah. But I also.
You know what I
like,
mean?
But
I think
but I am,
everyone's-
and I never wept over my lost foreskin. Like when I got into middle school and I was showering with other kids, and like my penis looked the same as theirs. Like I never thought twice about it. So it's an interesting like. I don't know. I don't harbor any guilt for it, and I don't think I would like. And that's maybe just because I never even thought twice about it,
Right.
and I didn't even know it's same as vaccines. Like I didn't know there was any point of contention until I heard the opposite side of people who were like, oh no, like there's another option here. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't, and then because at that point, then I'd be like, well, then you got brother with the wiener thing, and then brother without with the foreskin.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess
it wasn't a big.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal for us.
Yeah.
I guess it is really a big deal, but it wasn't like a big decision. It was just like
It was just another decision. Like, should we give him that K injection, or you know what I mean, like the vitamin K, or the stuff.
right,
like
yeah.
do
It
all
was
those things.
yeah.
And what just out of curiosity, like what is the passion? Like what
Well, you saw your child's penis be cut.
Yeah.
Like they cut his penis. Like it's a huge decision. Like in my mind, it's like they can, if you think logic, right? So if you just think rational, like, and that's what you guys are such smart people and you're so logical with the most of the rest of your life. I mean, I'm assuming.
Except for this.
but it's just so fascinating to me because it doesn't make any logical sense to me, because it's like he can do this if he wants later, but if you do it now, he can never take this back. Like and there's like, that's a decision you're making, and that's so for me it's like as somebody who I see myself as really rational, I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna let him make that decision. I'm not gonna give him a tattoo right now. I'm not gonna give him something he cannot revoke later in life.
Sure. And it's also your norm, which is totally fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is so
Which
it's
is
what you're used to. It's what you grew up with. And it's what
Absolutely.
your
Well,
norm.
not my dad. My father was circumcised. Like the a lot of my other family was circumcised. My parents just didn't circumcise me. So I know what uncircumcised penises are. Like no other thing. It's just like it's that. That's why I'm so passionate about it, is because it doesn't make sense to me. Like I'm sitting here, and it wasn't a big thought for you guys, because that's just the norm, right?
It is
like
just
even-
the norm, but I
even-
still trusted my gut. Like
it's just like it wasn't a big decision for us to not.
Right.
It's the same thing. We didn't
Like,
sit down
and-
and have a conversation about it. Should we or not? No, we're not going
And this
to.
goes back to my personal nature. Like even as you're questioning my rationality, like I still don't get fired up about it.
Right.
I'm still,
Right.
I mean, it's just
You feel
It's
no
cool. Like I'm
need
glad you
to.
got a foreskin. I'm glad I don't. Like it just is neither here nor there for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that he wouldn't not want to be circumcised.
I have no idea. I have no idea of the alternate reality. It's just something that I'll never like really consider in my life. You're right. When seeing him get circumcised was kind of like, that was gnarly, but it was a fleeting memory.
Yeah.
I think about it less than I think about.
I remember.
It was 10 seconds. It was like getting a shot.
Else.
I remember when my little brother was being born, being at the hospital.
I think this is also.
I watched
plays into
a baby around the corner to be circumcised, I can still hear that kid screaming in my head.
Really?
I can still hear that. And I was like, what's going on in there? And I was 5 or 4.
Maybe
and a half.
that's part of the reason why you had like a traumatic experience
I'm
about it.
like, no.
I will make it the goal of our friendship to make you circumcised sometime in the near future. That'll be my goal.
I do not want to be there.
I'm gonna find out the case and the rationale for circumcision.
Yeah,
and see if I can push you over the edge.
I would love for you to do enough research to get me to circumcise myself
and have an awesome circumcision party.
Yeah,
and Facebook Live it.
And I will make it my goal to have some weird Franken circumcision stitched onto you, so you get your very own
deal.
Oh God,
Making me think about these things.
Anytime Pat leads in with, I'm not going to argue with you about this.
Well, I'm just going to
I told him to ask.
I'm just going to let it ride.
I didn't want to fight, but I just wanted to know the rationale because it's so foreign to me.
I think just to sum everything up, we just trusted my gut instinct on that one.
Right.
Like it wasn't it wasn't irrational.
Right.
That was like a mama instinct, and that's what I.
Same with
trusted.
vaccines for us.
Same with vaccines.
I'm like, yes, I'm okay with some, and some I'm not okay.
That's
with.
same with us.
You know,
same with us. We spread them out. We didn't need them all at
Right.
once. He's not having sex. Let's not get that one.
Right.
You know, but in the end, you just trust your gut, and some of parenting is just that. It's not logic. It's instinctual almost, and our instincts are different than yours, and it's just. Is what it is.
Totally.
Right?
Yes, totally. I just can't. I know that Pat's literally biting his tongue.
No, he's actually.
His tongue is bleeding right now.
No, we're done. We're done.
There's nothing more to discuss.
Your instincts are what you get from your whole life. You accumulate to this point. So what do you know?
Right.
So you're
it's
going to
based
go with
on
what
knowledge.
you know.
Right.
No, not knowledge. Experience. So if everyone around you is a certain way, but that doesn't mean it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it doesn't mean it means it's your experience. It's your context. It's your context of life. It's like it's right in your paradigm. It makes sense in your world.
For sure.
And what we do makes sense in our world.
Totally.
There's not an argument necessarily.
Right.
It's a
Exactly.
discussion
That's what I'm saying.
from two opposing paradigms.
Yeah.
Right.
And you just wanted to hear the reasoning.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you can hear the reasoning, but there's no discussion about it.
Fair enough.
Because it's just a topic.
Well, but there really isn't anything to discuss.
Right. Well, no, I think it's
The Pat Barber shirt would say, "You are welcome to your wrong opinion."
I do not have that T-shirt. Well, I had this.
I think what's interesting about it is just hearing you say it wasn't an important decision for you.
Yeah.
Well, it was an important decision, but it was one that we didn't. It wasn't logic.
Right.
It was instinctual.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so.
And it might be different for other people.
It would have been going against my instinct,
right,
to circumcise my kid,
right,
to not
circumcise my kid.
Yeah.
And that poor child in the hallway that you heard.
Yeah.
They needed you, Pat.
They needed me.
You should have run down that hall and saved his foreskin.
You want to do a couple more and then
we have time?
We'll be done? Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have time.
We'll just do one of these ones. How about these ones?
one.
We'll flip through this question.
We got 220 pickup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. You ready? Mm-hmm. Do you feel comfortable going to dinner or movies alone? Would you rather be by yourself in such a situation or with someone you only marginally enjoy?
Oh, I love going to movies by myself.
Okay.
Same. At USC, there was a theater across the street where I went to college, and it was often empty. And I could literally go there, and if there's nobody else there, you could tell them to play a different movie or something. Love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I get the kiddie pack.
Especially more than somebody you marginally know.
The kid, you mean like the little
yeah.
Do you smell?
That's
wonderful.
Funny. Well, we got that one last question. So
no. Would you rather go to the
me?
movies? Yeah, you guys just fucking skip the question.
I don't know.
Someone you marginally know or by yourself?
Well, no, wasn't it marginally or no?
No, it's whether you marginally
know
know them. And I'll make it easy for you.
Give me an example.
They have a foreskin.
So yes, right?
Exactly.
Yes, I would go
Dunzo.
with them.
So no, genuinely, you would rather go to the movies with someone you marginally know versus by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, me too. Yeah,
Really?
I would definitely go to the
Fair
movies.
enough.
I enjoy people, and not that you don't. I'm just saying, I will
I don't think I've ever
always
been to a
prefer
movie by myself.
Oh
be
my
with
god,
other
I've been
people.
to probably hundreds of
Yeah.
movies by myself.
I love it.
Yeah.
Here's what I say, because she'll always also be like, from time to time, like, well, we're going to have special time, let's watch a movie together. I'm like, that's not special time. We're all staring at the screen, and we're all going to have our own experience. All right. And then we're going to come away and then we'll discuss it.
Right.
So I'd like to have them there for that.
Yeah.
But I don't need to experience the movie with anybody.
You don't
I'm
need,
like,
like,
hey, you know
let
what?
them-
This is my shit.
Do your kids talk during movies?
They're getting better, man. Not anymore.
Oh, Oaks.
Coco does.
Oaks does.
Yeah.
For sure.
What's going on?
Or especially when they're total spoilers, like if they've seen one before. I love this part.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks, bro.
Thanks. I'd like to love it too.
Want to do the final question?
Yeah, so the question we ask everyone is if you could go back and tell yourself one thing before you had kids or while
When you're pregnant.
When you're pregnant.
What would you
would
say?
it
I would say I would tell myself to relax a little bit. Life's fun. Don't get too worked up over small shit.
That's a good one.
Do you have something better?
No. It's fantastic.
Sure sounded like with that
I
tone there,
mean-
Rory.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
That's a good one, but wait till you hear mine.
I would say.
Wu-Tang.
I would say if you circumcise your child, I would say, you're never gonna get it all right. So don't get hung up in the details and like really, maybe cliche, but like really enjoy like these days, especially when I see the kids. All the cliches are correct about they grow up so fast and it happens so quick and long days, short years, that kind of stuff. So I'd really just encourage myself to be present. It's easy to distract yourself. It's easy to even treat some things as chores that are not chores, like family time. And so that's what I would say is like, drink it all in because it will be gone like now. Facebook memories is the weirdest thing that's ever happened. When they serve up memories and it's like, this is what happened 2 years ago. This is what happened 4 years ago. This is what happened 6 years ago. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I feel like that was yesterday. I don't have white hair on my head.
That walk thing. The one with
walk thing.
kids on the back. Gus
Dude.
looked so
Oh, I know.
tiny and
Yeah.
Oaks was like a baby.
Totally. Still never replaced that book you gave me. I think that's when you gave
So
it
you
to
don't
me.
carry that with you at all, do you? Like
The guilt.
the guilt.
Maybe you should just buy me the book.
You just gotta let
I
it go,
should.
Rory.
It's the same thing as my will. I should make a will. I should return that book to you. It's like, put it on the list.
Pretty sure he gave it away in their purge, but that's okay.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
someone's
That's
reading that
just
book
long
now.
How did this make it here?
Hey, it was a great book. Yeah, that's it. Just enjoy. I mean, like, plug in. There's and especially us. We got so many distractions now. Cool microphones and GoPros and phones and all this stuff that can like really steal your attention. But I'm getting the stress now. Like I'm not joking when I tell others to have a baby because it's like they go and they're human beings now.
But that one will grow up too. And then
Just keep having them.
The best argument I ever heard from our kids was like, you can only do so much as one person to impact the world, but if you raise multiple good children, like they can do that much more impact. And I was like, that's why you're Mormon, because he was Mormon. Like, and that's not why he's Mormon, but he was like, he brought that argument to me, and I was like, fair enough, sir.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You know,
Yeah.
if that's truly the impact I want to have, you're right. Like 3 of minions who've been raised from very little to be awesome could be an amazing
Force, man.
change.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost a full basketball.
We'll do it
team.
if you guys do it.
or you could have a third kid and it's like a psychopath.
No.
I mean, it could
Not these
happen.
beautiful people, not us.
That doesn't happen to beautiful.
It doesn't happen to beautiful people.
I mean, wonderful people.
Okay.
Excellent
Okay.
people.
Time to go.
Gotta go.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
High fives, chest bumps
Boom.
all around.
Boom. Boom.
That'll last.
All
Don't
right.
be hanging,
Oh,
Ange.
sorry.
So Taz and I, every morning, we wake up, and when I say Taz and I mean Taz, right, Taz?
Right.
When Taz wakes up, what do?
I turn the coffee machine on,
Turn the coffee machine on. So she comes down, she makes coffee, and then what happens, Taz?
and then I bring you coffee after I've had a cup myself.
After she's serviced herself with coffee,
Because
she will
you're
then...
still sleeping.
Yes. About an hour later, I'll get my cup of coffee. But needless to say, we enjoy coffee and we drink a lot of it, and we really take a lot of pleasure from the ritual that is coffee and the taste that is good coffee. And I started out not really caring about what coffee tasted like, and then I removed all the additives to my coffee, so things like creams and sugars and all that. And it really started to matter what the coffee tasted like to me. And I realized in that time that a high quality coffee was something that was important. And luckily for me, my really good friends, our really good friends, own Cat and Cloud Coffee. They are our guests on this show, but they have sponsored the podcast, and they've given all you guys out there the ability to go to their website, order coffee, and they have a monthly service that you could do, or you could just do one-offs. And if you put in code BARBERSHOP, like Barber, BARBER, shop, SHOP, then you will get a 10% off the coffee, and it will also help out the show. So yeah, go drink some good coffee and take 10% off on us. Boom shakalaka. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you liked this, please go to iTunes and like and subscribe and comment and, rate us and make us sound and look all awesome. If you don't like it, just keep to yourself. Thank you.